The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them.
Tyler James Robinson.
Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out.
A lot of people are talking about this word goiper. What does that even mean? And could this man be one of them?
Reports have suggested that the FBI is investigating a broader network of groups that may have had some knowledge of the shooter's plans, potential accomplices, folks who may have known about the shooter's plans.
Need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature.
We have some shocking news today. The suspected shooter in the Charlie Kirk murder was finally seen on camera. He speaks very briefly. I'll show you that in a second. And also a text exchange was released between the suspect and his partner / roommate / lover. Plenty more was revealed about this suspect's potential motive. And then we also have a shocking new update about a left group potentially that was involved in this heinous crime. We'll get into all that in a second.
There you are looking at 22-year-old Tyler Robinson.
A short time ago, Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray revealed his plan to seek the death penalty against the suspect Tyler Robinson. Let's listen to the judge.
Calling case 251-403-576, State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Could you state your name?
Tyler James Robinson.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Robinson. I'm Judge Graff. In that on or about September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, committed criminal homicide in the physical presence of a child younger than 14 years of age, with knowledge that a child was present and that may have been seen or heard the commission of the criminal homicide. Tyler James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. Mr. Robinson, this case is set for September 29th at 10 a.m. It will be a waiver hearing, and I will be the judge assigned to this case. Mr. Robinson, I invite you to join us at that time.
So as you can see there, the shooter is in protective garb because he's currently in suicide watch. His mother actually told investigators that Robinson wanted to unalive himself rather than turn himself in, but was convinced ultimately by his father to turn himself in. And now we know that Tyler Robinson is indigent, according to the judge. That basically just means he can't afford to provide his own lawyer. The court will provide him with counsel. And it's also important to note that of the available attorneys, only a fraction are Rule A attorneys in Utah, meaning qualified with dealing with a capital case. And even among that pool of attorneys, a lot of them are very reluctant to take up this case because of the public backlash. No one wants to touch this. No one wants that kind of heat in their careers, defending someone who's so hated by the public. At the end of the proceeding, you hear the judge say that September 29th is the next court appearance. This case is moving at warp speed. The rest of us are eagerly awaiting all of the intel on this guy, all of the findings from this investigation. Investigators are currently withholding a lot of juicy stuff that the public would love to know, simply because they do not want to taint a jury pool. They do not want every new detail released about the shooter's motive to potentially prejudice jurors, which is understandable. However, a lot has already been released about this guy's motive. Just check out the text exchange today that was released. I'll show you the highlight of the text exchanges in just a second, but there are people like Walter Kern out there, people like Matt Walsh, who do not believe the text exchanges. They think it's too scripted, like it's an attempt to save the roommate from any kind of scrutiny or culpability in the crime.
The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, and he did provide those messages to police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange then took place. After reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right?" Robinson, "I am still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you.
This is the first detail that was released from this text exchange. This guy, this suspected shooter, says that he actually thought he was going to go to his grave with this secret. He thought that he could just shoot someone in broad daylight with a hunting rifle and not get caught by the most powerful intelligence apparatus in the world, the US government. I don't know if this is arrogance or delusion on his part.
You weren't the one who did it, right? Robinson, I'm sorry. Roommate, I thought they caught the person. Robinson, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down.
I think his name was George Zinn, was the old man who was arrested immediately after this melee broke out. If you do some digging on that guy, he's just a complete nut job who's just always at political events, and I might actually be schizophrenic. I don't know. He might have some mental illness issues.
It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Roommate, why? Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence.
Who has said that Trump and his supporters have been spreading hate for 10 years? Wonder where that puts him on the spectrum.
Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out.
It's right here. He said, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate cannot be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they've moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Ultimately, the fact that he could not retrieve his rifle made him feel like the jig is up. He's not going to be able to get away with it. And then he adds to his roommate, remember how I was engraving bullets? Hey, by the way, if you're roommates with someone or lovers with someone and you're in your late teens or early 20s and they are engraving bullets, you should just report them to the FBI just to be sure. This shooter goes, remember how I was engraving bullets? The effing messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge OWO face on Fox News, I might have a stroke. This is the sick thing about potential copycats out there too. There's so many edgelord young guys who would see Fox News and other news stations saying, if you read this, you're gay, LMAO, and they would just die laughing. They would think it's so cool that the suspect trolled boomer news stations with this. It's probably really inspirational in the bad way for a lot of would-be copycats out there because they think it's like edgelord comedy absolutely peaking to have done this to the news. But it is noteworthy that he says Fox News. If I see one of these memes on Fox News, I might have a stroke, meaning he's gonna laugh so hard, he's gonna have a stroke. He picks out the lone GOP news station to mock and to have a laugh at. More people with common sense would say, so he doesn't like conservatives, he doesn't like Fox News, he likes seeing them humiliate themselves by reading off his shitty little memes. Now, unsurprisingly, there is an active misinformation campaign being directed at the less online, older generations to convince them that Charlie Kirk shooter was a quote-unquote groyper. This is the Nick Fuentes group. You have articles out there saying, what is a groyper, and was Tyler Robinson a part of an alt-right movement? Charlie Kirk shooter's ammunition marking may be linked to this video game. Details here. Shocking absolutely no one. Even CNN is pushing this alternative theory to take the heat off the left.
I have to ask you this because a lot of people are asking what this means. A lot of people are talking about this word groyper. What does that even mean? And could this man be one of them?
Yeah. All this stuff used to be so fringe, and now it's like at the center of politics, and it's a little bit difficult for me to believe.
It is a little wild.
But groypers are the fans of the far-right podcaster Nick Fuentes. He's been around for a very long time. He was at Charlottesville. He was at Jan 6. Fuentes has long had a feud with Charlie Kirk, or had. He would show at his events. His fans would show up at their events, and they would ask Kirk leading questions intended to trigger Kirk into moving further to the right, particularly on immigration and gay rights. So Fuentes has totally disavowed this violence. He made a very forceful statement against that last night.
So despite the suspect's own mother saying that her son had become much more political in the last year, that he was motivated by perceived anti-gay, anti-trans rhetoric from the right, despite investigators saying that the suspect was clearly indoctrinated by left-wing propaganda, Democrats are trying to convince themselves that this guy was so anti-gay that he shot Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk was too pro-gay. Can't make this stuff up. Even the unhinged liberal streamer Destiny, who celebrated Corey Comparatori dying and the Trump assassination attempt, the first one, and who said equally vile things after this Charlie Kirk assassination, including that Republicans, conservatives and Republicans need to be more scared when going to conservative events. They need to be more in fear of their safety, worried about imminent bodily harm to themselves so that they can get their leaders to be nicer, because of course Trump is responsible for all of this left-wing violence.
Need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature.
Whatever, he's nuts, fine. But even he doesn't think the shooter's a groyper.
Do we have any reason to think this guy was a groyper? If not, I feel like it's better to focus on Trump instead of Fuentes, right? Well, so there are a few things going on if I had to guess. So one, initially I thought, especially after the bullets and unironically the trans stuff, was like maybe it could be a groyper. I feel like the chances of him being a groyper though are pretty low because all of the messages that I've seen this guy send and disc and everything seem like pretty normal. I feel like groypers, I feel like it, are very like in that culture and you would see them posting like crazy shit everywhere, but all of the Discord messages seem really normal. Sorry, if you're on the right, so retards like the ones in my chat right now, all think that like he's 100% a trans shooter. The smart conservatives know that like there's no good information showing this guy was radicalized by the left right now, okay? Because they would have released it. You'd see way more about it. They know that that information isn't there. So if it does come out that the shooter was right wing, at the very least, if they could pin it on Nick, that still kind of works as a bit of a bonus to them. Now they want to attack the left with it, but if they could pin it on Fuentes is kind of like outside of the whole MAGA circle. So it'd be nice to sink him on it. So they might have some incentive to like angle it that way, but I don't know if they would or not. I don't know if I've ever heard any mainstream conservative even mention groypers or Fuentes or anything. So I don't think they would, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so Destiny actually thinks that now it's Trump voters, it's Trump supporters who are trying to characterize the shooter as a groyper. I give up. I don't even know what to say to that. It's just too retarded. But Jimmy Kimmel is the one with the most novel theory of all. The shooter's not a groyper. The shooter's not a leftist fighting for his trans boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. The shooter is a Trump supporter.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
The shooter hates Charlie Kirk so much because Charlie Kirk is a Trump supporter and the shooter is just so dumb because, you know, Trump supporters are just super dumb. Now, this is breaking news. There's a group in Salt Lake City called Armed Queers, SLC. They are currently being investigated by the FBI.
Reports have suggested that the FBI is investigating a broader network of groups that may have had some knowledge of the shooter's plans. Can you give us any details on that? Potential accomplices, folks who may have known about the shooter's plans, folks who may have encouraged him, any update on any of that?
So in terms of what we do for an interrogation perspective, we go and reach out to the family and community immediately. And we've conducted those investigations and interrogations with local law enforcement, and we're continuing to do that because those closest to the suspect are going to hopefully know the most about the suspect and his beliefs and his ideology. On top of that, unfortunately, it has been leaked that there was a Discord chat, and for those unfamiliar with it, it's a gaming chat room online that the suspect participated in. So what we're doing, we've already done is serve legal process, not just on Discord, so that the information we gathered is sustained and held in a evidentiary posture that we could use in prosecution should it be decided to do so. And we're also going to be investigating anyone and everyone involved in that Discord chat.
The leader of this group deleted their entire Instagram account within hours of the shooting. This is highly suspect behavior because it indicates the possibility that they thought they'd be targeted. Now, if this suspect is a right-wing Trumper, a groyper, whatever, why would the FBI care about a pro-trans, explicitly Marxist left-wing group in Salt Lake City? What would cause them to not just take the account private, but to completely delete it within, again, hours of the shooting? Well, obviously, we can't say either way. We don't know yet. They're currently being investigated by the FBI, but deleting their account potentially signals complicity or knowledge literally over 30 hours before anyone knew the identity of the shooter. How would they know that they'd been a target at all unless the shooter had affiliated with them in some way or they themselves knew the identity of the shooter and they knew something about the incident before it happened? The woman seen here with Elizabeth Warren, who's actually the leader of Armed Queers SLC, she was actually given an award by Utah Global Diplomacy, which is a State Department affiliated NGO. Utah Global Diplomacy has since scrubbed the Armed Queers leader from their site. Any mention location of her from their site. This is all highly suspicious behavior, and it comes amid the district attorney's comments that they are not ruling out the fact that they are currently investigating up to 20 other individuals in connection to this assassination. So again, while investigators can't say too much right now, they don't want to taint the jury pool, they don't want to give away a bunch of evidence before this goes to trial, and clearly they are expediting the process. Again, the next court appearance is scheduled for September 29th, 13 days, less than 2 weeks from now. Based on what we have so far, it sounds like the shooter has explicitly said that Charlie Kirk was filled with hate, was spreading hate. He's upset that Charlie Kirk is allowed to get away with spreading hate, etc. This is from the text exchange, and this is from his mother. We know that Tyler Robinson was at the dinner table only a couple days before the event, speaking ill of Charlie Kirk. We know that this suspect's partner was transitioning from male to female, meaning we know in essence that the suspect was either gay or bisexual, queer in some way, and by default, pro-trans. This is why the Groyper lie is so mendacious. The Groypers were vehemently homophobic and anti-trans to such an extent that whenever they spoke ill of Charlie Kirk, it was because Charlie Kirk was considered too pro-gay for their taste. Just because Charlie Kirk actually spoke to queer individuals, actually spoke to trans individuals, that was too far for the Groypers. So the fact that this is going around trying to convince a lot of, let's just say, less online boomer types who aren't super locked into the news cycle, the fact that there's an attempt going around by mainstream news to spread misinformation, which is to say fraudulent information that directly contradicts the only evidence we have right now. They are trying to confuse people. They're trying to take the heat off the left. They're trying to make the situation so complicated that no one can keep track. They're ultimately just trying to give a psychological out, an escape route for any liberals out there who might feel some guilt at calling half the country Nazis, evil villains, etc., etc., etc. for a decade. These voters, these Democrat Party supporters really don't want to admit that their rhetoric, that the rhetoric of their leaders that they have believed, that this has at all contributed to this spate of violence. Unfortunately for them, if I was a betting woman, I'd put my money on this guy being a pro-trans leftist, duh. And I think with this case moving so quickly, I think with this trial that's going to happen pretty quickly, we're going to find that out pretty shortly.